Dr. Deegan, would you like to have our students lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Yes, I'm Steve Yeomans and Keontae Woods. Going to lead us. Pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Please call the roll.
Mr. Sharon.
Here.
Dr. Bridges.
Here.
Mr. Jester.
Here.
Ms. Clodfelter.
Here.
Ms. John.
Here.
Colonel Waters.
So this time we have some special recognitions to acknowledge.
Yes, under item A, we're going to ask Miss Teresa Jackson come to the podium, and she has got a very special person to introduce. We brought so many family members that it's gotten crowded over here.
I'm going to give you a little background on our spelling bee. On January 27th, Lawton Public Schools sponsored the Region 16 spelling bee at Central Middle School. We had 17 elementary schools with students from 4th and 5th grade. We had 4 middle schools with students from 6th, 7th, and 8th grade participate. They were all presented with the site winner and one runner-up for a total of 42 participants. Each participant received a medallion for participation, and in addition to the medallion, the winner and the runner-up, who wasn't able to come tonight, received a trophy. Those trophies and medallions were provided to us by the Junior League of Lawton. The winner, who I have right here beside me, is Lucy Heath. She was representing Carrie Chills. She is now invited to attend the 2016 Central Oklahoma Spelling Bee on February 27th at Meacham Auditorium at the University of Oklahoma in Norman. She won the spelling bee by correctly spelling the word
Credentials.
Can you spell the word credentials?
Credentials.
You're the winner. If Lucy cannot attend the Central Spelling Bee, then the first runner-up was Sophia Kahn, and she represented John Adams, and she wasn't able to be with us tonight. She would have the opportunity to represent Lawton Public Schools instead. So, would you like to say anything about the spelling bee? You want to tell them how awesome that trophy was? Anything? You have it. You want to say anything?
The trophy looked like a bee.
All right, she did a great job, and all the kids and the families, they study so hard at the words, and you know, this starts in September, and we have the spelling bee in January, so it's a long process, and the schools, everyone works so hard. So let's give Lucy another round of applause.
Lucy. Okay, next we're going to have Mr. Moore, and he has a few guests himself.
You know, I think I've got probably the best job in the district. I get paid to go and watch guys like this perform athletically. And it's a treat because, you know, when we look back on what we call the good old days and we look on our playing time, we always look back with rose-colored glasses and we think, you know, we were just pretty good. But when you go and watch these guys, you realize these kids today are far better than we ever were. They're amazing, and you need to get out and see them. What I'm going to be doing is recognizing 4 gentlemen who are now going to be in the All-State football game in July at Coaches Clinic because they have been selected to the Oklahoma Coaches Association All-State team. And to see how things have changed, 3 of these guys are linemen. Back just a few years ago when I played high school football, I was a lineman. I could start at all in today's teams. The first one I would like to bring up here made the Oklahoma Coaches Association Class 6A All-Star by Class team, his All-District team, the All-Big Ten Conference team, as well as the OCA All-State team, and that's Keontae Woods. Stand right over there just a little bit. You sure can. Come over here. And I would like 2 8x10 glossies, if it's all right. I kind of hate to introduce this next gentleman because when I first started at MacArthur just a few years ago, his father was on the football team. He's one of the best kickers that's ever come through the city. And he was selected to the All-District team, the All-Big Ten Conference team, the 6A All-Star by Class team, and the Oklahoma Coaches Association All-State, and that's Steve Yeomans. I used to stretch my shirt like that too back in the day. A lot of skeptics in the room. Representing MacArthur High School, young man made All-District, Class 5A All-Star by Class, and Oklahoma Coaches Association All-State team, and that is Walter Neal. This fourth young man, 5A1 All-District, 5A All-Star by Class team. He was on the Daily Oklahoman All-State team, which is not an East-West. It is where they pick the best seniors from the entire state. It's quite an honor. And he also got to play in the Polynesian Bowl All-American game. Was a team captain and on the OCA All-State team. Just in case you're wondering, he was not a running back. It's TJ Fialoa. We had, so far, I think you need to be aware that for football and softball and one early signing for basketball, presently our athletes have nabbed 21 athletic scholarships to play at the next level. That doesn't include basketball and wrestling, or will be selected in a couple of 3 weeks, and then we have all our spring sports. So we're going to look like we'll push the envelope this year. Last year we had about 32, and we've already got 21, so it looks good for scholarships and playing at the next level. So these are our 4 All-Staters.
And Lucy, you are welcome to stay or welcome to go. Oh, we have oh, Riley, Mr. Moore left without, Mr. Moore, get back.
I think we're going to call him on.
Okay. We'll stop that.
I'm going to get Mr. Moore back in here, Riley. I think he went out to take a picture, and I mistook him as leaving.
He's coming back.
That was my fault. Mr. Moore, you went out to take a picture, and I mistook it as leaving, so it's my fault.
We have 3 young ladies from MacArthur that made All-State. It's the Oklahoma Softball Coaches Association All-State team. I'm going to recognize them, even if they're not here. The first one would be Riley Murphy. And Riley, I think, is here. And you know, the funny thing about these softball girls is they get all dressed up and they look all pretty, and then you go to the softball field and these girls get after it. And they play some ball. So Riley, congratulations. Thank you. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to give these to you to take with you. Ariel Inzenauer, she started since she was a freshman, as I think you did also. And the other one, ages me also. Her name is Taylor Martin, and I coached her dad in baseball when he was at MacArthur. So if you haven't figured it out, these kids are showing just how old I am. So thank you for being here. And I think, I don't know if someone's picture of you here or both, but okay, let's get you up.
Thank you, Riley. I think we can move on.
You have an architect's report
No, but March 7th, we will have one at our next board meeting.
and departmental report?
One departmental report, and that's Tony Hooper, and he's going to do a testing overview.
Good afternoon. My name is Tony Hooper. I'm a student assessment director for the Lawton Public Schools. Working with me is Fred Roloff. He's the student assessment specialist. If things go wrong, I get blame. If things go well, it's because Fred is doing an excellent job. I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the different things we do. I'm not going into great detail. First of all, we work with end of instruction tests. These have been fairly recent additions to the curriculum in Oklahoma. If a student doesn't pass 4 of the 7 end of instruction tests, they don't get to be high school. They don't receive a high school diploma. Those 4 tests are Algebra 1, Algebra 2, English 2, English 3, Biology, Geometry, and U.S. History. The 2 tests, Algebra 1 and English 2, are underlined. Those 2 they absolutely have to pass in one form or another, or they don't get a diploma. The other 5 tests, they may pass any 2 of those other 5 tests and still receive their diploma. The tests are given 3 times a year. That's different than it used to be. If a student is not successful in the spring testing, which is in the mid-April to mid-May time frame, then they're allowed to test again after summer school if they have participated in remediation that is provided during summer school, during the weeks before the test. That's done in July. And then again, at the end of the first semester in December, if students are still not successful, they are given another opportunity if they participate in the remediation to test again. So we have some students that have taken the Algebra 1 test more than 2 times, I will just put it that way, in an effort to get that diploma. We are currently waiting for the final winter test scores. It generally takes a couple of months to finalize those test scores and find out if the students completely passed. 48 hours following the end of the testing window in December, we are given a preliminary list. Students have a pretty good idea as soon as they finish the test if that test was passed or if they need to plan to retake that test. But the final scores are the ones that go in the transcript. They don't come out for several months. Leading up to these tests, we have to go through and make notes about who's taking a large print test if they're visually impaired, maybe taking an alternative test, and I'll talk about that in just a minute. All that has to be done earlier this month. So a lot of people think testing starts in April. For me, it's a year-round job, and for Fred, it's a year-round job. It seems like it never stops. The next kind of test I want to talk about is criterion reference tests. These are the tests given to 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th graders. Each of those students in those grades take a math test and a reading test. In addition, the tests are science tests are given to 5th and 8th graders. Social studies tests, U.S. history in 5th grade, U.S. history in 8th grade. Eastern Hemisphere geography in 7th grade. And then the writing test is next week, and that's one reason I wanted to share with you tonight. This afternoon, next week, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, is the writing test for all 5th and 8th graders. If they don't take it during that time frame, they're considered absent. And if we don't test at least 95% of our students overall, then it adversely affects our report card for the school that is involved there. So we try to be sure that we get every student testing. We've had 3 students that have emergency exemptions because of health issues. The state does not hold that against us if a student has a medical reason for missing. Multiple choice tests in grades 3, 4, and 5. It's what I would call old-fashioned tests, the same way I did it before the turn of the century. I'll just put it that way. Paper and pencil. Grades 6, 7, and 8 this year will take every test online. That's math, reading, geography in 7th grade. And 8th grade, the science and social studies test will be online for the first time. Those students have been taking tests online, those 8th graders, but it's the first time the science and social studies have been put online. So that will be just a little bit different for them. The pre-code for them and all the things that they had to do, again, was last week to get everything ready to go for the testing in April. The window for testing for 6th, 7th, and 8th grade lasts one extra week. The reason for that is because not every school has a computer lab around every corner. That's just about the best way to put it. And we have to use the computers we have and do the best we can. The state gives us some exceptions, or gives us extra time. The other kind of test I want to talk about is the Oklahoma Alternate Assessment Program. These are the students that are, I'll read what I said so I don't mess it up, with moderate to severe cognitive disabilities. This year we have approximately 165 students, just over 1% of our population, that qualify for this particular test. There are two companies we work with, which seems strange with only 165 students, but that's the state vendors. Dynamic learning maps we started with last year. It was a completely new idea for me. These students take math, science, and reading tests, and they take these tests on computers. Now then, when you stop and think about our cognitive disability students, sometimes some of these students are also visually impaired. Some of them are immobile. They are not able to get out and move on their own. But the state of Oklahoma and the federal government says you must test these students at the high school level in Algebra 1, English 2, like the others. To me, that is really pushing what we need to be doing with our children when they have those types of disabilities. Pearson is the other company. This year they're doing the social studies testing. These are a little bit better tests. The teachers take a camera, a digital camera, take pictures or videos of the students performing certain tasks. It's a little bit easier to say, okay, they're at least given an opportunity to pass. And I appreciate the fact that they're having a better chance with that. That will be going away. This is the last year for that type of testing. It's called portfolio testing. They put a lot of things together. The changes from these two companies, Mr. Olaf and I were laughing. It seems like every other day we get a new change and an update to a manual. So we do our best to stay on top of things. Last thing I want to talk about is Renaissance Learning, and it's also called STAR 360. It's a program of testing that we purchased through federal programs. I want to start out and say that it has some tremendous reports. I'll talk about those in a second. One of the goals of the Student Assessment Department was to get at least 50% of the teachers in the district trained in small group atmosphere. We've trained almost 90% of the teachers on some of the things this will do. The STAR Math and the STAR Reading tests we're giving for grades 1 through 9th grade, basically, Algebra 1 or English 1. It's a 20-minute computer-based test. This is for mostly our regular ed and then the special education students that have a learning disability that are not severely cognitively disabled. This test takes only 20 minutes. It has 34 questions. And after this test, and it's been millions of tests have been given in this program, it gives a diagnostic report for every student. Where are they strong? Where are they weak? It's a computer adaptive test. If a student gets a question right, the next question gets a little harder. If they get it wrong, it gets a little easier. When you get through after about 20, some students take a little bit longer, you have a good look at what these students can do and can't do. For instance, let's say a 4th grader in math is having a terrible time in 4th grade math and the teacher can't really figure out why. This STAR-based math or STAR math test will say, oh, well, this student missed this skill in 2nd grade. We don't teach that skill in 4th grade. But now we know it's a 2nd grade skill we missed. We can go back, catch that. It's a prescriptive thing. It actually gives some lessons that the teacher can use or the remediation teachers can use to help bring those skills up to where they need to be. Let's see. Fred, have I forgotten anything? Okay, the other thing is STAR Custom. STAR is, again, part of the 360. We are trying out the possibility of doing our benchmark tests that we used to do. The diagnostic tests of STAR Math and STAR Reading give us very prescriptive individual tests of how the students are doing. The benchmark tests that we've done in the past give us a really good idea of how the teachers are doing teaching those skills. If we have a group of students in a class that do poorly on skill 1.3a, it's a pretty good indication the teacher needs to reteach that skill. The STAR-based testing does not give us that quite as clearly as the benchmark test. So we're trying STAR Custom with one middle school with one test in about 2 weeks to see how that works. It's already part of the program. Do I need to ask for questions? I talk fast. I'm sorry. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Of those tests, which ones are state and federally mandated?
The EOI, end of instruction, are mandated. The state mandates 7 tests. The federal government mandates reading as far as end of instruction. Reading, English language arts as one subject. Math and science must be tested at the high school level. The state of Oklahoma has expanded that to include U.S. history and also has added the Algebra 2 and geometry. And English 3 added to English 2. There are many people in Oklahoma that are proponents of using the ACT test because our end of instruction tests don't say anything about how students are going to do in college. The ACT test is much better predicted. That's what it's written for. So I believe there's maybe 1 or 2 bills in the state legislature to do that. This spring, for the first time, the state is providing a free ACT test for every 11th grader. That will take place March 29th in Lawton. They gave the choice of paper, pencil, or online. When I read all the requirements for online, there is no way we could have done it. It wanted an individual 3-sided study carrel for every student, and they wanted it done in 5 or 6 days across 985 students. That's not possible at this time. So we're going to be doing a paper, pencil on March 29th. Does that help? And then in elementary and middle school, reading and math is tested every grade by the federal government requirements. And then the state has added the U.S. history in 5th grade, geography in 7th grade, U.S. history in 8th grade. The science, I'm not sure if the science is required. I believe it is once in middle school, once in elementary.
Do they, since the state mandates it and the federal government mandates it, do they pay for it?
The state, well, basically, yes. The state government has a contract with, this year the vendor is Measured Progress. They're out of our neighboring state, New Hampshire. I haven't figured that one out yet. And then they contract for the online part through a firm in San Antonio. So, but it's all paid for by the state. If we order additional materials, it doesn't have any cost to us at all.
Okay.
That's the only good part. The only good part. There are some good parts. I don't mean to make it sound like that's the only good part.
Okay.
Any other questions?
No, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
On to your report.
In my report, we have item A, which is consideration and action regarding the proposed revisions of policy DLB-R1, which is a work schedule for support personnel, and by and large, this clarifies break times, start of day and end of day. Clarifies that for people.
Move for approval.
Second.
Call the roll, please.
Mr. Jester?
Yes.
Ms. Clodfelter?
Yes.
Dr. Bridges?
Yes.
Ms. John?
Yes.
Mr. Sharon?
Yes.
On item B, we have consideration and action regarding the proposed adoption of policy FNCFD, the Lawton Public Schools Student Athlete Drug Testing Policy.
Any,
To make a motion. Actually, do we have discussion?
you want a discussion
Yes.
on this? Okay.
My discussion is I'd actually like to make a motion to change this. Sorry, Miss Ellis. But I think I would, instead of just testing athletic students, I think it would be fair to add in all extracurricular activity students.
Okay.
What would that do with, my question was with cost. This, and I think we're going to maybe educate, we have a new board member here to not really, since this is her first day of what the background of this. This was a pilot program that was started by MacArthur High School that was modeled by a school, and that's why I'm glad our attorney is here too, that it was not only challenged in court, but upheld in court. So they verbatim had the exact policy put in place. They've ran it for 5 years, but the district has not had to pay for that. That has been by their own, they thought that maybe in the first couple of years, if they got the donations and they got whoever was going to support it, that eventually the district would take over. This is the first time that we're entertaining the fact of taking it over. From the numbers that you gave me earlier, I think 20,000 roughly is what you said it would possibly annually cost.
We've estimated 15 initially, and I think I just went ahead and rounded it up with 20,000 with Ms. Branstetter as our goal. The policy doesn't actually say we have to test a certain number, so we would just work within our budget.
Okay, now if you did add to, since she has a motion on there for extracurricular, that's all civic clubs, band, everything else, would that have any change? I mean, there would be more volume, but again, you say we could control the amount.
It's still random. It would just include a larger pool of students.
Okay.
So,
And it says in the policy that the district will determine the monthly number, so
Yep.
we
Great.
do have some laterals in there.
So I'd like to make a motion to approve it by adding in the wording, all extracurricular activity students.
I'll second.
Call the roll, please.
Dr. Bridges?
Yes.
Mr. Jester?
Yes.
Ms. John?
Yes.
Ms. Clodfelter? Yes. Mr. Sharon?
Yes.
Item C, consideration action regarding the proposed adoption of policy FNCFDE, Lawton Public Schools Student Athlete Drug Testing Consent Form, and my recommendation that we make the same
Wording.
motion to include all extracurricular activity students in that as well.
To approve that and add in the wording of adding in all students, all extracurricular activity students.
And I'll second.
Call the roll, please.
Mr. Jester?
Yes.
Ms. John?
Yes.
Ms. Clodfelter? Yes. Dr. Bridges?
Yes.
Mr. Sharon?
Yes.
Under item B, consideration and action regarding the proposed revisions to policy FO, student discipline, and with the board's pleasure, I'd like to recommend that we table this today in order to give our secondary principals, staff, faculty, and students and parents a little more time to communicate on this issue, and we could report back to the board on March 7th, similar to the process we've had in the past with other schools.
So we'll be doing a poll?
Yes, met with the principals, we engaged the staff and parent and students, similar to like at Tomlinson Middle School. In that case, the students received a poll, the parents received a poll, and the staff met as a faculty and determined what they would like to do. And that, through those three avenues, have the principals come back and report to me. And then at March 7th, I'll report to the board what the results and what the feedback is.
Okay, just for clarification, we're going to poll the high schools, but we are already going. we're
And the
not gonna
three middle
poll them
schools?
In the middle schools also?
Yes,
Okay.
the secondary schools, all remaining secondary schools. Tomlinson's already done it.
Correct.
And we're going to follow Tomlinson's model since they were secondary, and that's what they did. They brought the students in, pulled them, parents the same, poll, and then the faculty got together had a formal faculty meeting to discuss it.
Good deal.
And then, Dr. Deegan, if that's the case, then will each individual site be able to either be included or excluded or ask to be included in
I
the
think that would-
modified dress code? Or
I
are we
think that
going to
would be up to
consider
the
them all
board.
together?
That's up to the board.
Because if this is a board derivative, then I think that's good that we discuss this based on those that, again, and I don't want to, most of us understand this, and I want to help educate you as much as I can with this. This was also another pilot program, pilot meaning that we had 5 elementary schools that decided to say that we have polled our faculty, our students, and we would like to do that with your blessing. I was the only no vote. I just strive for liberties, civil liberties, but that's another case. So the first time I voted no. The second time when more elementaries wanted to be added, I said, well, this is really working, and there really has been no pushback. We have now all of the elementary schools on board, so all of the elementary schools are with this modified dress code. And then Tomlinson, again, using the same verbiage, said that they felt comfortable enough that their building wanted to be added to this kind of pilot program. Now, this has come in where it's district-wide, and that's a good question. It's what Mr. Jester brought up, and that's what I would like to find out, when you do this polling data, because I want to find out what's the determining factor in it, if this is, who is going to ultimately decide it. If you poll the parents and they give you some input, and let's say you poll the students, and it's as easy as voting for prom king and queen. They know how to do this. You put it out, are you for it or are you against it? If we get 50% split, I mean, if it's a 90%, 10, then it makes sense, but if it is 50-50, is that good enough to say, well, maybe this isn't right to mandate that, or are we going to just say that that's good enough? I mean, is there a number we're looking for? I mean, as far as what staff is looking for, parental, because we were not given any numbers as far as, and I didn't think that we really asked for them specifically, how many said yay, how many said nay. It was just an overall acceptance. And for the most part, the community has accepted. I've not heard any pushback from elementary and the one middle school that's involved in it. But when we get into the high school, that's what got a little more attention. Because I think elementary students aren't really trying to, display who they are, and in high school, that's when you are trying to define who you are. I understand all of the arguments, pro and con. I would just ask anybody else on the board if they could tell me why we would like this district-wide, what are the positives of it. I would like to hear that.
I would love to say.
Sure.
I speak to my principal routinely, and discipline is an issue. They send kids home daily because of violations of dress code. And if our policy is to keep kids in the classroom, and it's something as simple as having them dress a certain way, I'm not sure why we wouldn't do it. That's one issue. The second issue is our whole policy, or our whole whatever motto for right now is preparing career-bound citizens. Career-bound citizens have to wear some form of uniform, dress code, something, and if that's part of what we're doing, then we need to do it across the board. I feel like the elementary school students are used to it. They move to middle school. If we do it in middle school, they're used to it. We move it on to high school.
Well, one thing about career bound that I would say that, there would be an inconsistency if we say in order to be career bound, we want most of them to go to college.
That's not what I said.
No, I know, but I'm saying that's the next step. We tell them all, our counselors say that, unless they go in the military, and some of them get jobs. Our colleges are not set up that. This is a public school. This is not a private school, and we are going to, and if it's a discipline issue, then I really hold the principals to task if they're having a problem with disciplinary issues. As far as, I think it's going to cause even more if you get a rebellion to say, well, I'm not simply going to wear it, then we've added more work and more effort as far as, there has been no statistic that has ever shown that people that have used this, that has gotten better grades, or that has shown morale, any kind of, the people that are going to act up are people are going to act up whether they're dressed up or not. I've heard the sagging thing, well, they will stop from sagging. They can sag in khakis as they can sag in anything else, and that is also against policy. So,
Well, one of the main problems with the discipline though is the fact that our current policy states what you cannot wear.
correct.
And so we're always pushing the envelope, or the kids are, trying to find a way to express themselves, but pushing the envelope of our rules which state what you can't do. And what this does is it tells you what you can wear, and it becomes a lot more clear. A lot less time and effort is spent on trying to enforce these rules. So that's the main advantage, for the sites, as far as not spending so much time and effort on trying to determine whether or not someone's in violation. And then you have conflicts because parents think that their kids have been unfairly, brought to task. And so it could alleviate some problems. I will give you that.
And it's not being, it's not consistent across the district. The way that one person sees something is not necessarily the way another person sees that. And we've seen that when someone shows up at another school where they've been fine wearing that at one school, they show up at another school and that doesn't work. And it's caused some conflict.
But
Can we ask Mrs. Oates? She's here. Can we ask her?
What would you like to know?
Do you feel like it's a discipline issue? Would there be an advantage?
I had some figures pulled today, so I can give you a little bit of insight on that. Please. Just this year alone, from the beginning of the school till now, we've had 390 episodes of dress code violations between the high schools and the middle schools. Just the high schools was 335 of that 390. And this is our middle school?
No, this is-
It was all seven.
All
seven.
Okay.
But the high schools were 335 of the 390, which tells me that the situation is not so bad at the middle school. And then if you've got middle schools who are already doing modified dress, then that's not such an issue. At the high school, of course, there is no modified dress, so that's more of an issue. If you consider that we spend even 10 minutes per child trying to adjust, or trying to talk to, or counsel with, or discipline, or whatever, 10 minutes even, we figured out at Eisenhower that we probably spent 60 to 70 hours. That's a lot of admin time for us to spend on something like clothing, and it's a lot of instruction time for them to be out of their classroom and talking to us about something like holes in their jeans. Something that, to me, it's just not necessary. Where if we had something that was very simple and drawn out, I've actually had kids say that even at the high school that they would go for it. I've had parents tell me that because they're tired of the issues of what is my child going to wear tomorrow, and the keeping up with the Joneses kind of thing. And, you know, the kids at the high school level like to wear all the newest fashions. And, so it is something that's distracting. If we can take that away from the educational experience and have them come to get instruction, that would be so much better. But I do agree with Dr. Bridges on the fact that as a district, if we are pushing the career bound, and to us, career bound means career, college and career, and whatever you're doing. You're more likely, if you go even to a job, these kids will come to school in jeans with holes and sagging or whatever, but they will dress up. They will go home and dress in modified uniform wear to go to their job. They will give us a hard time about wearing an ID, but they'll go dress in their khakis and their polos and put on a name tag to go to work. They'll be tardy for us, but they'll get to work on time or they'll lose their job. So we're trying to, at the high school level, say, look, we are trying to prepare you at the high school level for what you're going to face once you get past these walls, whether that be work, college, whatever it is, right? Career, whatever you're doing. You can't go to work and keep your job if you're tardy 1,000 times. You can't go to work and keep your job if you refuse to wear an ID. You can't go to work in those clothes. And so if it would help us at the high school level to be able to, that would be one more component to put into our bag of tricks. If we can say to them, this is how you act, this is how you come to school, and this is what you wear. And it's, I think it should be top down, not bottom up. We're governed by top down. You're our bosses. It's top down. We need that to be, high school students need to set that example. They've got siblings that are in middle school and grade school that are wearing uniforms, that are watching their older siblings go to school in ratty jeans.
Do we have a policy in place for how the teachers address the teachers? Do they have a policy for what they wear as well?
Yes, there is a dress code for teachers. I'm going to tell you that my personal opinion about that is, if we, and I'll tell you what I will do at my school, if we require the students to come dressed in a modified uniform, then whether they can wear spirit shirts or, on Spirit Week, they can dress up, and you know what I'm saying. On special occasions, they can dress in their jeans as long as they don't have holes in them, and that kind of stuff, right? Then we'll do the same thing with our teachers. Because once the kids are dressed in modified dress, the teachers are going to have to do the same.
Question for you. If this policy was enacted, then instead of coming in there and counseling them about holy jeans, you'd do what? Where would they go? Are they suspended? Do they get sent home? If they're in a proper attire, then what is the course of action?
If they're in a proper attire, there'd be no reason for us to talk to them at all.
No, I said improper. If this goes through and they come in with a pair of jeans, what do you do with these individuals?
Well, I think it depends on the situation. It depends on the situation. It depends on the attitude, the frequency of how often that kid might have done that. It depends on the situation at home with the parent.
So would that take more counseling then?
Well, we do a lot of counseling.
Well, so what I'm saying, you said it would alleviate counseling if they come dressed. So if they don't come dressed, it's the same thing about now you have violators. I'm flipping it on the other side. You have people that are not going to follow in. You're still going to go through the counseling process, correct?
Well, there were people that didn't follow in at the middle school level, according to these figures that I drew, and I drew these for the last three years. And even at the middle school level, there were still people, even with modified dress, that did not follow. And then you just deal with them as they come up. You put a policy in place to deal with first offense is a conference. The second offense could be the night time after school. Of course, every single time you call and talk to a parent. We have situations where there may be parents that don't have the money to do that. We have a clothes closet at school. We have people that will donate money for kids to dress properly. We do that all the time. So there's always counseling along with everything else, along with discipline. There's both sides. There's not one just by itself.
But the advantage of this then is that it's just easier for you to ascertain whether or not they're in violation.
It's easier
For them to understand as well.
The interpretation of what they're supposed to wear is easier.
Correct.
That's what I'm saying. It's, if kids across the district at the high schools were wearing modified uniforms, when, these kids are they all know each other. They're all in each other's gangs. They're all in each other's activities. If all the kids were expected to be in a modified uniform, when they come to each other's schools, there's not going to be so many issues about what are you wearing, because if we're all doing the same thing. And they all support each other. They're all friends. They know each other. This district's large, but these high school kids all know each other.
Do you have the middle school broken down by schools? Because we've only got one school that's utilizing
Which
this.
school is it?
Tomlinson.
Tomlinson. I have Tomlinson on here twice. Tomlinson's dress code violations from 14-15 were 30 total.
How's that compared to the other two middle schools?
Well, Central had 38, but that was last year, 14-15. Eisenhower Middle School only had 4. MacArthur Middle School had 5. Central and Tomlinson had the most, and they were still small compared to the high school numbers. So, yeah. And then there's various, a lot of them on the conference side of how many times kids were conferenced for the improper attire. Those numbers are huge because we talk to them first. Of course, we do a lot of education when the school year starts. We go into every classroom and let them know right off the bat, this is what we expect. And, we pointed that this year with the guidance from Dr. Deegan and from the board about career-bound citizens. We use that in every speech that we gave to the kids. This is what's expected of you in a career of any kind. So we're going to expect you to follow suit so that you are dressed appropriately so that you can do your job. And so we've maintained that. We have said that all year long. And have I been pretty strict about that? Yes, I have. But my disciplines are going down, and my instances of dress code violations are minimal at this point compared to how it started at the beginning of the school year.
But in all fairness, this is your first time at Eisenhower coming into a brand-new school,
Yes.
coming from MacArthur High School, correct?
Yes.
Yes.
But
So I mean, saying that you had a whole new set of problems that were told that needed to be addressed, and that's, you were put in that position, so there was going to be some of that
yes.
initially for
Absolutely.
whoever was in that position.
Right, absolutely. But, it has helped that we've been consistent, we've been tough, but we've been consistent, and it is getting better. But I feel like that was about 60 to 70 hours worth that probably could have been a whole lot less if we were already dealing with uniforms. I can't tell you how all the kids would feel. We have not done that. We've not done that poll. Mr. Manley told me that we would like, everyone wanted us to do that. We can set up a survey to do that. We can set up a survey with our teachers. And I would be interested in that.
Parents.
If you do that, what would,
Do a survey of parents.
what would you like to see out of that outcome? I don't mean to pick on you, I know there's other principals here, but you're doing a fine job of talking for the rest of them. So. No, but I mean, like what I said initially about percentage-wise, are you looking to say, is it an 80-something, or is it, if it comes down to 50-50, then it's a little bit harder for us to gauge what the real pulse is, or?
I think 50-50 is not acceptable. Are you talking about the
The poll, yes, the
Oh,
poll.
gotcha. I'm thinking you meant numbers of students.
Understand.
The 50-50, you know, you're not gonna get as many kids to agree that that's gonna be okay.
Right.
I think you're gonna get more parents that are going to agree, and I think probably more teachers are going to agree. Of course, when I tell my teachers, keep in mind that when they dress up, you dress up. But they're professionals, and they'll still vote the way that they know is the best for, you know, educating the kids, and the best for instruction time. And really, I know it sounds like, it sounds pat, but kids act better when they're dressed. They do. They act better when they're dressed up. They just do. And I know. It sounds like a platitude, but it is true.
Well, the thing is, I think our focus, and it's always been here at this district, and take great pride of it, that we're trying to change the inside of a person, not the outside of a person. And the inside is all of what you talked about is behavior. It's all about going and towing the line. And I understand what uniforms are. We have a military, and this is a military town, and we have to wear it. And we have hospitals, and they have to wear those certain things. But there's others' freedoms. They're all different. You know, they're not all the same. And to prepare them for career-wise, I don't know if you noticed the individuals that came here, all state football players, they weren't all dressed the same. They all had their own, some wore jeans, some would not be in compliance with it. Now, they have got scholarships. They're going on to the next level. They were exceedingly very well in one area of life, and I applaud that, you know, so.
And think of what a much better job our administrators could do if one of the things that we don't have to worry about is spending 60 to 70 hours of our time dealing with dress code, because we've got that lined down. I would love that. And how much more time our kids would have in class getting that good instruction. So we have to think of that too. And how much less time they would spend being in school suspended or you know, after school at night time or something because of not following dress code. So I'm thinking of that too. And I do know changing them from the inside out is important. But I also know that the same kid who gives me a hard time about what they're wearing at school is the same one that waits on me when I go to a hamburger joint, who's dressed up, who remembers to say yes ma'am and no ma'am, but at school won't do that. But wearing that uniform and having the badge on and being expected to, you know, have certain parameters and behaviors, somehow that outside changes the inside. I would love to see that in our hallways.
Any other discussion?
I'd actually like to make a motion to table this till after the polls are done. If there's no
I will
more.
second.
Okay, and then that will be March 7th is the,
think it's
come
our
back
board
with the
meeting.
finding next board meeting?
Is that enough time to get polls in and everything?
Yeah, does that give the
Is that enough
secondary
time for
principals
polls?
to get the information out? Yes?
It
It is?
Okay, thank you, Mr. Ewing.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
Appreciate you. And
They all owe you, they all owe you big time. Call the roll, please.
Ms. Klopfelter?
Yes.
Mr. Jester?
Yes.
Ms. John?
Yes.
Dr. Bridges?
Yes.
Mr. Sharon?
Yes.
All right, we're on item E, information item, the 2014 bond update. And since you have it before you, I'll just see if the board has any questions. And if not, I'll move to item F. And as an update on the bond, the principals and the staff are working on two different pots of money with that, working on not only their facility needs, but their educational material needs right now. And so we hope to get that. We just received last year's, the process took longer, but they've got it fine-tuned this time, so we expect to get our orders in this year to have them for the start of school. So I'm very, very
Dr.
pleased with
Deegan,
it.
would you elaborate on that amount of money that we've allocated from, is it the sales tax or the bond issue money that we're putting back into the classroom supplies? And
Yeah.
how that's distributed and allocated?
The bond was roughly $3 million a year. $650,000 a year went straight to buses, transportation. The remainder was split between roughly what we advertised and what we explained to the voters. Roughly half of it was going to be for classroom supplies, materials, equipment. The other half for facility upgrades, and that half is basically to go to finish the projects that were left over from 2004 that didn't get finished because of through the last bond.
So it's 1.2 million then?
Yeah, roughly the but it doesn't average out. As we can see, we just sold bonds worth about $5 million or $4.8 million. No, $5,085,000 was what we sold yesterday. So it doesn't even out. What we do try to do is make sure it evens out that 50% of whatever's not spent on buses, about half of that goes to buildings and half of that goes to materials. Right now, we're on the lopsided because we did MacArthur Middle School's roof, about $1.5 million. So we've actually spent a little bit more on buildings in the last round, so this time we're going to actually spend a little bit more on classroom materials, something I think the principals will probably be glad to hear. And so it's a game of a little bit more this time, a little bit more next time, trying to keep it even.
But these materials don't include books, is that right?
The schools have bought everything from textbooks to iPads to library books.
Oh, good.
They've bought computer programs. They bought an amazing array of stuff.
Okay.
Yep. They've done an amazing job.
Nice to see is that list of what they've purchased.
Okay, I can get a
If we
copy.
could have it,
I shared it in the last bond update at our bond oversight meeting. I can get you that one. And then on April 1st, we're going to have the first board meeting in April, we'll have a revised list. So I'll resend that list to you, and then I'll have the revised list in April. And so you'll have a look at the past, and then we'll have the next one in just a little over a month and a half.
maybe
Okay.
even one you could share at our board meeting.
It's a long list.
Oh, it is?
A long list.
That's good.
Well, and the windows at Eisenhower are awesome. I mean,
They are awesome.
I actually make a side trip with my family so they can see it every time.
Yeah.
It's really the west side of town, I guess.
Yeah.
I haven't been over
I
there.
crossed 38th Street, can you believe it?
You did.
Now it looks like there might need to be some painting done, just because the windows are so perfect. You see the paint chips and you're
Never
like,
can be
are you
said.
kidding me?
Require money.
I know.
Charlotte will ask if she needs it. Charlotte will ask. Item F, again, just sales tax fund, and that, item F, the sales tax fund update. And again, the Eisenhower windows are actually coming through the sales tax. The principals and the staff are also working through Mr. Smith and Mr. Ledford. They're working on their playground fencing and grounds needs as well at the time. So they're doing a tremendous amount of work at the sites. So, any further questions on that? I'll go to item G. Item G, I just have 3 or 4 quick announcements. One, right in front of you. This is the new Human Resources brochure that they pass out to prospective employees, and they'll be using also at our job fair coming up in a little while. I just wanted you all to have a copy of that. I think Ms. Hastings has done a tremendous job getting that together. Also, I wanted to bring attention to Kim Jones' display out in the hallway, Future Lens, and we do have Miss Ellis, who is a star in one of the, and the young lady, we have more? Dr. DeLoach is in it too. There you go.
I'm saying Dr.
Dr. Polk, are you in this one too? I missed you. I missed Dr. Polk. So, please, everybody on your way out, stop and say, last year, this same display made it all the way to the state capitol. Very, very good. And then I just have 3 little news updates. Lawton Public Schools, in cooperation with CETUS Conference Center and the Oklahoma Department of Mental Health, did a training with Miss Cynthia Walker recently about suicide prevention, taking steps to prevent suicide. I think that's a very helpful thing, especially in light of what, and that's been scheduled for a while. It just happened recently. Eisenhower High School has been recognized as Emerging School of Character by Character.org. This is the first year that they've been in the Character.org program, and they've already been recognized as an emerging school. And then, of course, we have 1, 2, 3 essay contest winners from Lawton High who've advanced to the national level, and that is pretty impressive.
Does anybody need anything removed from the consent agenda?
I need to pull page 136, it's a contract. Pull the whole page, it's an athletic contract.
Okay.
I make a motion we approve the consent agenda, except for page 136.
Second?
Call the roll, please.
Mr. Jester?
Yes.
Dr. Bridges?
Yes.
Ms. John?
Yes.
Ms. Clodfelter?
Yes.
Mr. Sharon?
Yes. We proposed executive session.
I do believe we need one.
Okay.
Make a motion, we go into executive session?
Second.
Call the roll, please.
Ms. John?
Yes.
Ms. Clodfelter?
Yes.
Mr. Jester?
Yes.
Dr. Bridges?
Yes.
Mr. Sharon?
Yes.